Hey, welcome back. Today we are talking about walls we've installed in our Skoolie. Now we still have some walls left, but at this point in time, I'm pretty confident with the process. So I figured we'd share some decisions that we made, some lessons that we've learned, and then we're also going to make a unique wall here, a custom window cutout. So nice and smooth curved window in this wall. So a lot to get through today, and let's go get started with it. So the first decision that we had to make for our walls is what type of plywood we would be using. So we have heard that Baltic birch is very good, but it's also very expensive. And the biggest factor, in my opinion, that comes with that price is you get a lot of strength for it. It's really good, strong plywood. But for our purposes and the fact that we were using half-inch pieces of ply throughout most of our build here, I honestly think that standard birch is good for us, so that's what we decided to use. So standard birch may have some more voids in between. It's got softer wood on the inside core of the plywood. But for our purposes, like I said, I don't think it was worth it to jump to pure Baltic birch. So once that decision was made, we then had to really think about the thickness of the walls that we wanted to use. So some people do 1/4 inch thick walls, some people use 3/8 inch, and this is solely wood I'm talking about, plywood. And then some people use 1/2 inch. Honestly, we debated this for some time because obviously the 1/4 inch is going to be lighter, it's going to be cheaper overall, but you're not going to have a lot of material to bite into if you have to hang things. And I didn't see 3/8 inch available at our local supplier, so that really wasn't viable. And so we just ended up going with 1/2 inch, and I'm really happy with doing that because if you look over here, if you want to stand up with me, Emily, these walls are made out of 1/2 inch, and they're like really strong, and this has got studs behind it, so don't be fooled like it's one piece of 1/2 inch. But if you look over here, and I know the lighting's a little bit off, but behind our miter saw, this is actually where our fridge is going to be. So I figured, you know what, we're using 1/4 inch plywood on our ceilings. Let me go ahead and get some early on, see what it would be like as a wall piece. And you know, our struts or furring strips are about 16 inches on center. And even with that, this one piece I decided to do 1/4 inch because it's behind the refrigerator, no one's ever gonna see it. It is a little bit, loose in the middle. So I think you theoretically can do 1/4 inch, but you need more furring strips than what we did, which was 16 inches on center. And you'll have less room to work with if you're hanging items. You can't really bite into a 1/4 inch piece of plywood and have a reliable hold. So those were the two biggest decisions when we sort of thought about our walls. And then now let me talk to you guys about the types of walls that we've made. So let's get to that. Other than the walls that are hung on the sides of the bus, there are walls that essentially make our floor plan. So they're perpendicular to the walls, and we call these standalone walls. We have a few different ways, actually just 2 ways, in which we've made these types of walls. So if you come over around here, Emily, these are 3/4 inch standalone plywood walls. There's really nothing as of now to support them, so they're not very strong. We basically screwed in to this 1/2 inch piece over here. We pocket screw the bottom and the top as best we can. But I even put some temporary cleats up here for the time being because, like I said, it's not strong enough for it to be, reliable if I were to lean up against it or whatever. What is going to make it stronger is where the context of the wall. So this is going to be our pantry. This is going to be our fridge. In our pantry, we'll have a bunch of shelves that are on cleats, right? And those shelves will basically provide horizontal strength across this wall, making it a lot stronger than where it currently stands. So these types of walls, we have a couple of them in the build. Here's our closet. We have another one right here. And because we have 2 clothes rods that are gonna, hang our clothes, we have one up here and one here, then we have a shelf in the middle. I figured that's going to be strong enough. But sometimes you just need a stronger wall, and that's where we actually just framed walls. So in our bathroom in particular, I'm confident to lean up against this because I know we got 18 gauge inch wide square tubing that's steel that's holding up this wall and this wall as well. We did that because there's no strength that we can add. This is going to be our toilet stall essentially, and we also want a little bit of space behind it because we're going to insulate it and try to make a sauna out of our bathroom, so that will be exciting. But let me show you guys exactly how this wall was made. If you want to come back here, it's a little bit tight at the moment, but this is our bathroom. It's this shape with all this stuff in it, but like I said, this is our toilet stall, and if you look closely, all we did was we welded an inch wide square tubing, and sort of made the frame of this. And so the good thing about that is the steel is always going to be uniform. I can put inch thick rock wool behind it, which exists, and I have some, which is pretty exciting. Like, it's not that common to find. And so now we'll put that rock wool in, and then we'll tile the inside of the bathroom. I think it's going to work out really well. But a perk of doing the steel walls is it's just really strong. So our bathroom will be built in that fashion. All right, so this is our strongest wall by far. It's probably way too strong than it needs to be. But the reason why I made it like this is because we're making a ladder up to our rooftop deck from the inside. So the context of our floor plan is we have a nice U-shaped dinette here, and so you'll be able to stand on the bench in the dinette and climb up and out. So the steel cross beams here will be the ladder rungs for you, and then we'll put a nice facade and plywood wall in front. We'll cut out the shapes. It'll look really nice, but I could have done this with 2x4s, I'm sure, wood framing, but honestly, I had this material laying around and I knew it would be strong and uniform, so why not? It's really not that big of a difference in terms of work and weight, so that's what we did. Okay, so here is the last wall I wanted to talk about with the steel framing that we've been using. This one is unique because where it sits, I wanted to weld. There's multiple reasons why it's made out of metal right now, is because one, we have this tiny wood stove coming in, so we gotta have, to follow code, we need to have a non-combustible wall that's 1 inch thick. So we'll put concrete board up against the back here, and then we'll fill it in with rock wool, which is non-combustible. But anyway, when building this wall, it got a little bit complicated because I welded these spacers on just too fast, and with all that heat that built up, the straight wall, the straight inch tubing that was the main frame here, it curved in like a potato chip. So if you do these types of walls, just take it slow and steady, because if you apply too much heat, they will curve. And the way we were able to fix this and salvage this frame here was I just applied heat to the other side, a cool little trick, and that curved it back into a straight line. So really happy with how it's come out here, really happy how the fireplace is looking. And yeah, we'll probably be installing that in our next video. All right, now we're going to talk about some tips and tricks that we've learned with building our walls. Like anything in the project, we start with the ugly / unseen portions of the bus first. That's where we can make our mistakes, and then we work towards the places that are more viewable on a daily basis. First thing that I want to share is we leave about an 1/8 inch gap in between our wall panels where they overlap like this, so when they're on the same plane. You don't need to leave a gap when you're in a corner over here. You can butt the ends up as close as you possibly can. This gap is for any change, any warpage or morphage, whatever the word is. With the plywood, it might expand, it might contract, and so you want to leave that there. And you don't really have any way to fill these up, because with the way the bus moves, honestly, any filler you put in or caulking, whatever it might be, is going to squeeze out. But in this situation here, we don't have many of these seams. I think as of now, we have like 4 throughout the bus, like the way we strategically planned out the plywood pieces. These are going to be covered up with our backsplash in our kitchen here, and then our cabinets next to the oven or the range right here. So they'll be covered up. Try to strategically plan that out and make sure you leave a gap, because let's go over here. This was one of our first walls that we made, and again, it doesn't look terrible. Here, maybe this is a little better view, but we didn't leave any gap, and the filler that we put is sort of popping out. It's not uniform, but whatever. It's the ugly part of the bus. No one's gonna be back there. We're not gonna put this video on YouTube. What? All right. So when you are measuring out your light switches and outlets, you have to be really thoughtful and make sure that you're doing it right. And so what I like to do is I get it as exact as I possibly can, and then I'll use a file sander once I lift that piece up to expand it out wherever I need or wherever I see fit. And then that will leave us with pretty good edges, tight edges around the switches. So a good little tool to have. This will come in handy elsewhere. There's a lot of curves in a school bus, so you need to measure those curves and have a tool on hand that can keep that curve as a template. So this was a very useful tool that we learned through Chuck Cassidy, and it is a curve tool. Yay! This is about 90 inches, I think, of a tool that can basically be set. If you loosen up each bolt here, you can go ahead and use it. We got a big one because I guess, I don't know, I figured it would be useful. You can go ahead and set it here and work your way up this wall, and you can really get exactly the curve of it. And once you're there, and once you feel comfortable with it, tighten up each bolt, and voila, you have your curve. It's really useful. We've used it on multiple occasions. There's a 30-inch one too, but we went ahead and got the longer one. Very happy with this purchase. Totally recommend. Another thing that's important in woodworking that we're learning as we go, I have no experience before this, is understanding where tear out occurs when you're cutting wood. So with a miter saw, you want your finished surface facing upwards because the blade cuts downwards and the tear out will occur on the bottom of that piece. But it's the opposite for a circular saw because the blade cuts upwards. So you want your unfinished side, your hidden side, facing you as you cut with it. Things to keep in mind, a jigsaw as well, finished side facing upwards. Just be aware of that because we made some mistakes with that as we made all these walls. Here's another tool that we learned through Chuck Cassidy. Incredibly useful, highly recommend checking out his stuff. This is a laser level and it helps us understand when we're hanging these standalone walls, or honestly most walls, it helps us understand if we're perpendicular to the floor, if we're square and straight relative to the floor here. So because you're in a school bus, you can't rely on traditional methods. How I use this in a quick 2-sentence way is I mark 4 lines or 4 marks across the bus, all at the same height. I put this on a tripod and I make sure that the horizontal line coming from the laser is on all 4 of these marks, and then that means that this vertical line is perpendicular to the floor. So very, very useful tool. A little bit of a learning curve to get behind, but if you're building a bus, you need this. Okay, so those are our lessons from the wall so far, and we have a lot more, but we'll be covering them. We'll be showing them as it progresses. What I worked on yesterday and last night was this wall piece, which is the first one I've done with this type of window cutout, and I'm just really happy with how it came out. I made a mistake or two along the way, but I filmed it all, and I'm going to show you guys now my thinking and work on this. And there's just a little bit work left. I have to fill in this gap and connect it to the window. I probably won't be doing that in this video, but keep an eye out. If you have any questions, let us know, and I hope you enjoy it. So I feel I have enough practice with these walls in general that I'm going to go ahead and step up the challenge. We are going to make a cutout for this curved window.
And when I say cutout, I don't mean like a square where you can see the curves of the window. I want the wall to follow the edge of that window nice and smoothly, seamlessly, so you see the curvature of the window and we get that aesthetic. The thing is with this sort of job is we need to be very precise and we need to sort of lay out the plan beforehand. It's not something we can just do on the fly. So the plan is we're going to make a template of the corner of this window. Now, the way I made a template, I already done it, is I did use this window here, and I basically screwed on a piece of plywood to the framing. And so with that half piece of plywood, I then took a router bit and with a wheel on the end, and I just routed out the shape of this curve. Now this window is the same shape as the other one, it's just a little bit shorter, but the width is the same, so the corner is the same. So with that, I got 2 of these templates made. This is 1/4 inch plywood. So I want to copy and paste them a few more times. And once I have 4 corners done, I can then basically clamp those corners onto the piece of plywood that we'll be cutting. And then I just need to make the straight edges, so the width and the height, make sure it's all squared up and good. And then I'll go ahead and take that router right there, and we'll go ahead and just follow that seam. So yeah, I don't think a jigsaw would be preferred. I think it would be a router. The one thing about my router, which you just saw, it's pretty small, it's compact. So I want to make sure that when I'm cutting 1/2 inch plywood with that, I basically have a lot of the plywood already cut out. So I'm probably going to pass through it once. So let's say this right here is the wall that I'm cutting out. I don't want to just let a router of that size, take out a 1/2 inch of plywood all the way around. I think that would be problematic. So what I'll do is I'll draw the line, I'll take a jigsaw first, and I'll follow that jigsaw as close as I can to the line without screwing up or causing any tear out for the final router pass through. So that's the plan. I'm excited for it. I think this will look really, really good once it's in. Our kitchen will be basically, all the walls in the kitchen will be up, and wish me luck. Here we go. Okay, so the corner pieces are made. Next up, we are going to cut out this size rectangle for the wall and then go from there. So I'm going to make sure that I leave a little bit of a gap because this is a continuous plane. So probably an 1/8 inch on each side. Fortunately, that gap is going to be covered up. So things to consider when you're working. Okay, so it's a bit later in the day, and right now I'm drawing these lines here. So this is exactly where I want the cutout in the wall to begin. I'm getting the bottom, the left, the right, and the top of this window. And so how I'm referencing it to my material down there is first I mounted the wall up. I put 1/8 inch spacers in between the edge. Looks good, fits nice. And with that wall mounted and there was no cutout in it, essentially I took measurements and I said, on that board you can see there are marks. I said, again, with the wall mounted, I took, here's 1 centimeter out from the edge of this wall. I would mark it, done. 1 centimeter from this wall, mark it, done. And then what I did, took like a baseline from the bottom saying, from the floor, this is 110 centimeters. From the floor, this is 110. From the floor, this is 110. And then now, once I have this line drawn, I can measure it. So it comes out to about 106.2 centimeters from the floor, that is, right? So now I can reference that 110 mark over on that piece and begin to draw out this window. So once it's all drawn out on the sides, the corners should just sort of fit into place. And then it's a matter of clamping those pieces down and routing it out. Very complicated, but it is what it is. You know, maybe when I was installing these windows, I should have utilized the frame of them, just like drawing out the template so I have it for a future date. That would have been helpful, but we're here, we're working on it, we're learning as we go. And so now let's get to drawing and cutting. All right, so the shape of the window has been drawn in. Now I'm going to take my jigsaw, I'm going to offset about 1/4 inch inwards, do a rough cutout with the jigsaw. At that point, we'll have to then get everything clamped down and we'll go through it a final pass with the router. So let me go ahead and film me taking out the majority of the piece right now. Okay, so here is the rough cut of the window. It looks pretty good, although I made a mistake, and it's a very frustrating mistake. I was jamming out to music as I took my measurements, and what should have been cut right here, or my line at least, should have been drawn at 203.4 centimeters. I accidentally drew it at 204.3 centimeters. So it's a little bit too high at the top. What I'm gonna do to try to save this piece here, because the sides are great, the bottom is good. I actually have a little bit extra still on that bottom, you know, because it was just a rough cut, if you see that line. My goal is to minimize minimize the excess that I'm taking off, that I'm routing off right down here. So I wanna go even above the line I have drawn, if possible. And then I'm going to make up the actual height of the window from that bottom line, because I'll have a little bit extra space, right? I'll get the proper height. And then at that point, what I can do is just shave off, you know, 9 millimeters, or whatever the difference was because of that dyslexic type mistake. So at this point in time, I think that's gonna work. This piece already is a little bit higher up top here, so that gives me a little bit excess that I can drop down, like the whole panel. And the good thing is up top is I'm planning on putting a type of hardwood over this that's going to overlay the walls by probably 1 inch or so. So if there's a little bit of a lower panel up top here, it's gonna be covered up. That's my plan. I think it should work, but I have to be pretty careful at this point in time, and I have to not listen to music as I take measurements. So before I get to the whole mess that I have to fix on the top and the bottom, I wanted to have some fun. I wanted to test this out because may as well test out my strategy here. I'm going to use I'm going to flip this piece over, obviously with the clamps hanging off the insulation that I'm on. And then I'm going to route out just the edge. I lined up the straight edge with the line that I have there. So, you know, that 1/4 inch material should all be smoothed out and nice and straight. So let's go ahead and do this one edge. Heck yeah. That felt good. Woo!
All right, now for the other side. Man, I tell you, I haven't used the router too much, but it's a fun tool. That is very fun.
So the sides are looking really good. I'll show you guys once it's all installed, but the next step is to do the top and the bottom, and then lastly we'll do the corners. Okay, so sides are cut, the top and the bottom are cut to size. It's definitely the height of the window at this point. Now as far as the alignment goes, may need to be changed a bit by trimming off some of the bottom there. But now we are going to put our corner pieces in and then go ahead and just route out the last of it. So I'm really happy with the final result of this window. It's just about finished. The only thing I need to do, which I'm going to do at a later date, is fill in the gap between the wall itself and the window here. So I plan on putting in some sort of filler wood. So like a piece like this, maybe double up on it to make the gap as small as it can be. I'll make it nice and flush with the wall. And then once that is inside the space, I can roll a piece of veneer just over the whole curve of the window. And I think that will look and work just well enough. So yes, it was quite a process to get done, but we have 2 more and we got a lot of work to do. So keep an eye out. We're going to do our best to post our progress. Thanks for watching.